In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the difference between self-worth and self-esteem. What do I mean by self-worth and what do I mean by self-esteem, and why is it so important for you to know the difference and then actually use it to change your mindset to allow more wealth and abundance into your life? Let's find out. Today, I want to start with a quote from one of my favorite authors. What we are after in prospering is nothing less than a major shift in consciousness, in the attitudes, beliefs, and ideas you have about yourself and your relationship to money. Gerald Mundis. So this is really apt for today's episode. I really want you to, now that we're into a few episodes into this podcast, I really want you to start thinking and feeling and understanding the way I want you to feel about everything, and especially when it comes to money. Now, why have I chosen this particular topic of self-worth versus self-esteem so early on in our discussion? Because I think the topics I'm talking about at the moment are foundational for you. What do I mean by that? So let's first explain what do I mean by self-worth and what do I mean by self-esteem, because usually up until this moment you probably have, like the rest of the world, use these words interchangeably. They're synonyms from each other. In the dictionary there'll be synonyms, but that's not actually true. So let's start with self-esteem. What do I mean by self-esteem? Self-esteem for me means self-esteem is who you are in terms of your physical appearance, your external world, where you live, how old you are, your age, your appearance, either you're tall, you're short, your ethnic background, your educational background, your work, etc. All your physical attributes that make who you are externally, that is part of your self-esteem. So, what do I mean by self-worth? What does that mean? Your self-worth is based on your intrinsic value. Now, what do I mean by that? So I want you to take a step back and I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from this, from this limited physical human existence. Regardless of what your religious beliefs are, and that's irrespective to me, that's personal to you. The point is, everyone believes, most people do believe that we come from somewhere, we go somewhere. The spirit is having this physical experience for this finite period of time, which could be 80, 90, 100 years maximum, assuming we live that long. But we've lived as in the spiritual world, as spirit beings, as spiritual entities for millions of years prior to entering this physical body or embodying. The body's inside of us, not the other end, but anyway, that's another discussion for another time. So your physical body that you're in at the moment, or you're having this physical experience through this physical body, is only for a finite period of time. So once you die, you will go back into the spiritual world for another, for billions of years. We have no idea, infinite amount of time. That means you are in this physical body, in this physical world, in this 3D dimensional world for a very finite, small period of time. Now compare this. If you've been in this world for about 80 to 100 years, assuming you live that long, right? And you've existed for billions of years before, and you're going to exist for billions of years after, what impact can this 80 to 100 years have on your intrinsic value? Your intrinsic value being you, who you really are, and your intrinsic value is coming from divine source energy. So your existence, the fact that you exist, the fact that you are this spiritual being and you are a divine being, you are one with the creator. All religious texts tell us this, that our Ru, our spirit, our divine energy is from divine source energy. So we are connected to divine source energy all the time, and we get our intrinsic value from being connected to divine source energy. Then think about it. What limited time, this 80 to 100 year period, which is so small, it's not even like a drop in an ocean in comparison to our existence before and after we've lived in this physical body. what can that possibly have on your intrinsic value? None at all, right? So, which means that regardless of your education, regardless of who you married, regardless of the amount of money you have in bank account, none of those things matter. None of those things can have an impact on your intrinsic value. Okay? Your value will always be the same. You will always be the same. So nothing you do in this physical world can impact your intrinsic value, your true value. Conversely, nothing you do in this physical world can deteriorate or take away from your intrinsic value. It's too small a period. 80 to 100 years compared to billions of years is just too insignificant for it to have an impact on your intrinsic value. And this is something that we have forgotten. Most people are so engrossed in the idea of this physical world that they've forgotten who they really are. And so they diminish their value based on the amount of money they have, the failures or successes they've had, the children they have, the car they drive, the location they're in, the skin color, etc., etc. We, all of us, regardless of our skin color, ethnic background, financial abundance or lack thereof, all at the core have the same intrinsic value. Okay? Nothing you do in this physical world can increase your value, and nothing you do in this physical world can decrease your value, which means that your intrinsic value is exactly the same as Barack Obama's, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, J.K. Rowling's, etc., etc. There's nobody on this planet who is worth more than you. It's just not possible. Conversely, that also means that there's no one on the planet who you are better than. Your value is no more than anybody else, regardless of their race, regardless of their color, regardless of the education, regardless whether you perceive them to be bums on the homelessness people, to somebody who's like a multimillionaire like Richard Branson. So your intrinsic value is no less than Richard Branson's or no greater than someone living on the streets. There is nothing. The fact of the matter is, in this finite period of time, Richard Branson has used his physical attributes and his mental abilities and his mindset in a way to accumulate wealth and to have certain successes and achievements in this physical world for a finite period of time. On the other hand, the person living on the streets for whatever reason has been unable to do so, but that does not mean the intrinsic value of the person in the mansion and the person on the streets is any different. The problem is society has taught us this over culture programming, and especially through social media, and especially in recent times through all the explosion of the materialistic world, that somehow you are not worth anything without the clothes on your back, without money in your bank, and without having the car, the successes and the physical attributes. Nothing can be far from the truth. Now, you may find it surprising, coming from someone who's a money mindset expert, but this is essential for you to understand, because most of the time, most people that I come across have some sort of issue with their self-worth. Now, I have a saying that most people actually believe that they allow their net worth to influence or impact their self-worth, whereas in my world, and from the way I see things, and as a money mindset expert, I can tell you this for right now, for sure, that it's your self-worth that determines your net worth. I'm going to repeat that for you. It's so important. Your self-worth determines your net worth. So therefore, if you are having somebody who's actually feels low about themselves, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I don't have the talents, I don't have the abilities, I'm here telling you, those things are part of your self-esteem. They're part of the skill sets you may need to acquire. I'm not denying that. In this physical world, if you want to achieve certain things, you have to acquire certain skill sets. Yes, that's perfectly fine. But if one person can do it, so can you. Because your intrinsic value is exactly the same as every single other person on the planet, it also means that you can tap into the same energy and achieve the same results that everybody else or somebody else has done, as long as you're willing to do the work and as long as you're willing to put the effort into it, and as long as you believe the fact that your intrinsic value is exactly the same as everybody else on the planet. This is a very, very humbling and simultaneously very, very, a confidence building aspect. So if you really understand this concept, you will never, ever, ever feel below someone or feel that you're not good enough compared to somebody else. On the other hand, you will never, ever be arrogant or egotistical and think I'm the best thing since sliced bread, because you will know for a fact that there's nothing that you can achieve, there's nothing that you can do on this physical plane which will increase your intrinsic value. And similarly, there's nothing you can physically do which will decrease your physical value, your intrinsic value. So this is why we have to get the distinction. Yes, on the physical plane, we have a certain lifestyle. If we want to have a certain lifestyle, we have to work and we have to attract abundance. The issue happens with most people have such low self-worth. They have forgotten who they are. They're bought into the lies and the deception of the physical world, thinking that somehow their lack of education or their lack of background or their past failures or something else has diminished their value in some sort of way, and they're unable to move forward. Well, the truth of the matter is, nothing you've done in the past and nothing you can do in the future can either build or diminish your self-worth. It doesn't come from you, it comes from divine source energy. The only way that you can actually lose that value is if you lose your connection with divine source energy, which is not possible because that's not within your control. You come from the spirit, you'll go back to the spirit, and you are a created being in a body. Regardless of which religious text you pick up, they all talk about the same thing, that you come from God and you'll go back to God. And the universal energy, the new age thinking, they're all pretty much the same. So I'm not going to give you a particular name for divine source energy. I use the secular term divine source energy, but this is absolutely true. Now, see how empowering this is. If this means that my intrinsic value is the same as Richard Branson's, there's no way in hell, there's no reason why I cannot achieve similar things to Richard Branson. Now, albeit that guy has taken, he's got a head start. He's been doing it for the last 60, 70 years, right? Okay, so what exactly does he have that I want? Wealth, money, name, company, what? Decide and know that you can achieve it too. You're not doing this out of jealousy. You're not saying because I want to prove that I'm better than someone. You're no better than anybody or no less than anybody, regardless of what material wealth you do or do not have. I want to clarify this early on in our podcast so that when we go and talk about wealth and changing a mindset around money and actually wanting money and desiring money, this does not come up. You are so well grounded in your attitude towards yourself and others that regardless of the amount of wealth you do or do not attain, nobody is better than you and nobody is worse than you. And I really want you to understand that concept to your core. It will ground you like anything. And you will always remember who you are, which is a created being in a body. Unfortunately, the society has based all successes on your material wealth, on your material achievements. But then that's okay. That's society. That's the culture. That's the society we live in. You cannot go and say, I disagree, whatever, and try and change people. You can only change yourself. Again, coming back to yourself. Everything starts and ends with you, how you feel about things internally. So this is one of the core concepts that I want to talk about, and I want you to understand. The society's focus on high self-esteem. Your self-esteem may diminish and be impacted. I'm not saying every now and again your self-esteem won't take a knocking. Yes, it will. You fail in a business, or something else comes along and you have a failed marriage, or you feel you put on too much weight, you don't feel good about your physical body, etc., etc. Those things are passing thoughts and they can be fixed. If you want to lose some weight, you can. If you want to change a partner, you can. If you want to attain wealth, you can. There's nothing that's beyond your capabilities. Unfortunately, the problem in society in general is if you focus so much on the self-esteem aspect, if you on your, the physical aspect in terms of what grades you have and what amount of money you do and whatever else, the problem is there's always someone better. There's always someone who's better looking than you in the physical world. There's always someone better who's more intelligent than you. There's always someone who has more success than you. You are never satisfied. You're never happy. And that's why a lot of people, regardless of the amount of success they attain to the outside world, are very sad and feel low about themselves. Now, conversely, if you have somebody who's very well centered and knows regardless of what they achieve, they will never increase or decrease their intrinsic value, then they can go on and achieve their financial success if they want to, if that's what their desire is. And I would encourage every single one of you to actually desire wealth, but it would not hinder your path. You would not be led astray. You will not feel corrupt. You will not have the greed and need for money. Throughout this podcast, this is my goal for you, that you pull away from the need and the greed for money and you move towards faith, love, and respect for money. And that's how you should treat money. And when you start treating money like your best friend, money will start coming to you. And as Brad Popper says, money will start coming to you through multiple sources in increasing quantities on a continuous basis. And that's how abundance should flow to you. It should be with ease and grace. There should be no hustle. There should be no hard work. Of course, you're going to put action. You'll be taking actions. And I advise everyone to take out inspired action. But there's no hustle. It's no longer a chore. It's no longer, stressing out. It's being happy with who you are first. So it's very important that you get familiar and get reintroduced to who you really are, which is a spirit, a spiritual being, a creator being in a body, or creator being having a bodily experience. By the way, just on the side, I keep saying in a body, you're not in a body, okay? Your body's inside of you. So most people have this, backwards. They believe that they are in their physical, their spirit is actually in their physical body. It's actually not true, and you know this as well. Our bodies are inside our spirit, because when somebody comes too close, you're like, I need my personal space, because that's your aura, that's your energetic field around you, and that's your part of your spirit. And this is what it needs. It needs a space, and that's why you need a personal space, and you need to, you only allow certain people in that personal space, because you're allowing somebody to be close to you. So you don't even have to physically touch someone to be in proximity to them, because your spirit is greater than your physical body. Just a side note, so I'll let you guys know. Okay, so I truly feel very, 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 very strongly about today's topic. I hope you took value from today, and I want you to really sit down and think about what makes you feel, what makes you feel bad about yourself, what makes you doubt yourself, what about yourself have you allowed, to cloud your judgment? Where have you thought, okay, I'm not good enough, or I can't be this, and where have you diminished your self-worth? And I want you to think about it. Was it really was it for self-esteem, or should it be under self-worth? If it's under self-esteem, that can go up and down. That's the physical attributes, that they can go up and down. That's not a problem. But if you allowed your self-worth to diminish, how did that impact your life? How did that affect you? Because I promise you, your self-worth determines your net worth. So if you want to bring up your net worth, you want to find ways to make sure your self-worth goes up. And the best way to start this process is to get reintroduced to who you are, who you really are at your core, and start speaking to yourself in the way that you are, which is an amazing spiritual being having a physical experience for a finite amount of time, which is so insignificant. It's 80 to 100 years compared to the billions of years you've already existed, and the billions of years you will exist after you've had this physical experience. Okay, so if you're enjoying this podcast series, if you're enjoying this video series, then please do leave a review for us. We really would appreciate it. And if you want to know more about my work and how you can work with me and the kind of things that I do, then please do come and visit my website, which is www.gullkhan.com. And if you have an episode that you want me to talk about, if you have a topic that you wish for me to do a session on, or a podcast on, or an episode on, then please do reach out to us and let us know. And do leave us a comment and reviews, because I do read every single comment, every single review. Thank you so much for listening to me. This is Gull Khan signing off. Take care. Bye for now.